Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dines with Dara on the Joy Slot podcast, brought to you by IrishSportsDaily.com. That's former Notre Dame basketball player and captain Dara Mabrey, and I'm Greg Flammang with Irish Sports Daily. Last night, Notre Dame opened their season with a 110-48 victory over Division II opponent Purdue Northwest, which featured the debut of highly touted freshman guard Hannah Hidalgo, and she showed out on the night. 23 points on 8 of 9 shooting, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 steals. We're going to talk about that today. We're also going to talk about the performance of the team overall, what they did defensively, and look ahead to the big matchup in Paris, France, against the number 6 ranked South Carolina Gamecocks. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If this is your first time catching Dines with Dara on the Joy Slot podcast, and you want to catch more of this content, please subscribe to the show. Please like this video and hit the notification bell so you know that we are going live. I'll put links to the podcast in the description below. As always, if you've listened to our earlier shows, I'm going to be putting this podcast on the Hit and Hustle feed as we grow an audience. And once that happens, this will transition to its own Joy Slot podcast feed. So let's get into it. Dara, yesterday, about 6:30 Eastern time, you texted me, there's no broadcast feed for this game. And I said, yeah, there's not. And then I thought, well, wait, I think I know why she's asking me this, because I don't think she's there. And she was not. But that's fine, because you know what? I'm a professional. I am very used to analyzing things that I have not seen. Basically every spring Notre Dame football practice is something that I don't see. And so I can, and luckily the other part, Dara, is there are so many good stats that come out from basketball, like so much more than football. It's basically a plethora of data for us to look at and analyze. So we're going to do that today. But it is good to get
for sure
good visuals. Yeah. So that as we go forward, that's going to be the case going forward. You need a good visual to analyze games. You know what else you need a good visual for, Dara?
What else?
If you want to upgrade your website, if you need a good website, or if you want to have an engagement video or a highlight reel, something that you want to make pop, like we made our show pop with the intro, a Dines with Dara intro. And if you want to do that, you can go to vsrmediacompany.com, which is founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Before we get into the game, Dara, I'm wondering, you play a team like Purdue Northwest, and they are obviously not the caliber of a Notre Dame women's basketball program, right? They do not have national title aspirations. They don't get upset if they are ranked 10th in the AP national poll, and that's what we should be 5th, right? Like they don't get mad about that, right? Yeah. So what do the girls take from this? How does the team approach it? Going into it, coming out of it, like how do they gauge what is a quality performance versus something like can you win 110-48 and take anything away from that going into like a big game against South Carolina? What does the team take away from that?
So obviously, I mean, you mentioned the caliber of the team that they were going against. Usually in any exhibition, it's not against a ranked opponent or someone like Power 5. But speaking from experience, you approach every single game the exact same way. So the way they approach that game is the same way that they're going to approach South Carolina, UConn, in November and December the same way they would approach anybody at the end of March. So I think that's how they look at it. But at the same time, like you mentioned something about winning. Obviously they won. Obviously, like, I mean, that score was a blowout, but there's other things that like you can take from that win. So like as an experienced player, like there were games where we won by 50 plus, but it wasn't as sad. It's like, obviously you celebrate winning because it's hard at that level. But at the same time, like some of those wins as a player speaking, some of them even feel like losses because the score doesn't determine sometimes like whether you won or lost, if that makes sense. Even like it's a stat, but when you're a national championship caliber team, sometimes all those wins don't feel like wins. We may, like, I remember I think it was my last year here or my second to last year here, we played, I think, Purdue Fort Wayne, and we broke a record for like the longest that we haven't scored in the first 5 minutes of a game. And obviously the next practice, even though we won, we handled business, we took care of business, the level of expectation is still so high that like the practice the day after, you would have thought that we lost the game, you know, like by the way we were practicing. So there's different ways to handle it, but you go into it the exact same way. And I mean, just from the clips I saw and what they did, they handled business. They should celebrate that. But even in these exhibition games, like no matter what the score says, I already know they learned so much. They're taking so much from that game offensively and defensively, no matter how well or poor that they played. They're taking whatever they learned and bringing it into South Carolina. So like one thing I could say about games like that, when you play like lower caliber teams and the score is a blowout, you're winning by 30, 40, 50, you learn so much from those games. So much.
Interesting. Like, give me an example. Like, I guess give me, because I did not expect you to say that actually.
Give me an example.
Give me an example.
So at that point, when you're winning like that, obviously you're playing to win, but I always thought of it as a player, like you're winning to get better at that, or playing to get better at that point. So like, I mean, from a coach's standpoint, at the end of the game, like she could, when the score is that far apart, she could be practicing trick plays for South Carolina. She could be throwing different defenses out there just to see, okay, if I throw this defense out there, what is the opponent going to do? You know, or if I run this and against a team that switches at the end of the game, like late shot clock, if I run this, what are they going to do? So then you can counter off of that and learn. So that's how I used to think of it, was you're playing to get better. But like a specific example could be you're playing against a mid-major or low-major team and you miss a help rotation, but just because of the caliber of the team, they didn't score. Oh, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, it does matter. You're going to get chewed out because in the next game or the next team that you play, that's going to be a bucket because you missed your rotation on defense. And that's what I'm saying. Just because you might play lower caliber teams, your standard, your mechanisms, your schemes, and your level of effort has to remain the same because that's how you practice good habits. And that's what separates national championship caliber teams and teams that might just go through the motions and get away with things and that kind of thing.
All right. That's good insight. I appreciate you saying that because, and I think that once we get into, and we're going to bring up the stats here in the full box score, I'm going to get your read on that. But once we get to see the team play, you can pick out some of the things that you were talking about, like the little things that may not stand out to someone who's just kind of watching the game. Obviously, we talked about Hannah Hidalgo, 23 points on 8 of 9 shooting, 2 of 3 from 3-point field goals. Probably the lone bright spot shooting threes on this game. We'll talk about that in just 1 second. Obviously, like filling up the stat sheet in 25 minutes of play, which kind of goes to show like everything that you've talked about, everything that Yale talked to me about, where it's just like the total package there. And especially with the defense too, 5 steals. The team had 21 steals on the night. And I want to focus on that for a second because Niele talked about how she raises the level of the defense and it kind of makes it contagious.
100%. Yeah.
The other part too is I think that the ball pressure that she can put on, it allows for players to be a little bit more aggressive in their mindset, because if the other team's having trouble just bringing up the ball, right? Like that makes it so much different. And it makes it like it takes them longer just to get into their offense, to get into their sets. It leads to poor shot quality for the opponent as well. So how much does that play into it? Just like the ball pressure that she puts on just as they're bringing it up the court. What does that allow her teammates to do in kind of jumping other passes and being more aggressive in passing lanes? Like Natalie Marshall with 4 steals, Becky Obinma with 4 steals, Cassandra Prosper with 2 steals, 3 steals for Maddie Westbeld, and on and on. So how much of a difference does ball pressure, bringing the ball up, how does that make a difference for a defense as a whole?
It sets the standard. So like obviously when the girl has the ball in her hand, that's the main focus. That's who everybody's looking at. And when you see defense is team oriented, especially the type of defense that Notre Dame plays. There's built-in help, and it's almost like a well-oiled machine. And when you see a team get a stop, it's unbelievable because everybody contributes, and it starts with ball pressure. So when you see your teammate up there pressuring the ball, it automatically raises your intensity and your level of focus to be, when you see your teammate doing that, it's almost like, okay, where am I? Okay, am I in the right spot? All right, maybe I can move up a little bit. Maybe I'll step back a little bit, because then you might anticipate a steal and then you're ready. And the clip of Hannah showed that. I think what they posted on Twitter yesterday, she cut her off. She let her drive right into the help, and she swiped from behind. And you saw Sonia was ready, picked up the ball. Hannah took off. Boom. That's chemistry too, right there.
Yeah.
So it builds chemistry. It raises the level of focus, and it just gets everybody on the same page, because getting stops is hard at that level, especially when you're facing teams in the future like South Carolina and all those Power 5 teams. They have on a really good schedule. When Hannah does that, it brings everybody on the same page, and it raises their intensity to what hers is. And as a freshman, that is huge.
Yeah. So it goes to show, right? So 21 steals on the night, which is huge number. And Neil Ivey made a point to talk about that yesterday. And so something else I want to bring up is, I guess this would be on the negative, 3 of 17 shooting from 3. How big a deal is that for you? Like, you look at that, and obviously we haven't seen the game, so we don't know shot quality, right? I doubt, right? Like, Purdue Northwest is really forcing them into negative bad shots, right? Like big hand in the face. Like you should be able to get some clean looks against a caliber of opponent like that. 3 of 17 shooting. It is a 1 game thing, so you don't want to overreact to any 1 game situation there when you're going to play 30 plus. But it is notable, as it is a point of emphasis for Neil Ivey this year. So what is your take on that?
I think what you said before, like I saw that stat and I saw, some people going back and forth on Twitter about it. And I was just like, all right, whatever. Like, you shot 3 for 17 from 3 and you still won by, what was it? 100 and
it was 110 to 48. So we're looking at 62 points.
I mean, yeah. We know we have great shooters. We know we have people that are going to come in and shoot the ball as well. I think we definitely have more shooters than we did last year. I know she wants to attempt more at the 3. So, all right, now you attempted, that's a solid amount. And I think they're going to fall. I mean, first game, it could have been like, the 3-point shot is great, but at the same time, it's also the hardest shot on the floor for a reason. So I didn't look much into that stat. I think they should shoot some more after practice. It should motivate them, maybe get a few extra 3s up together. But I think that's something that they're going to take and just say, okay, if you're going to take that many 3s, could you just make a few more? Just a few more. I I don't think that stat is going to carry on at all. If you look down the list, Hannah can shoot the three, Sonia can shoot the three, AD can shoot, Maddie can shoot, not Kylie's specialty. Cass has improved her three-point shot, unbelievable, just from what I've seen from last year. A lot of her threes sometimes were flat, and now like when I watch her shoot, three-point shooting has improved so much, which is so big for her because she's great on defense, an athlete, slasher, can drive, and with her speed and athleticism, her being able to shoot the three is great. And then you look down, not Becky's specialty, not Nat, obviously they're post players, and then you got Sarah who can also shoot the three a little bit. I think they're going to be absolutely fine, and that stat doesn't mean anything.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll say we'll monitor, because here's the thing. It's kind of very similar to not to bring up the football team, but like early in the year, Notre Dame's blowing out teams that aren't very good.
Right.
And but they're not hitting the ball deep, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, all right, well, it's and the thing is, well, we don't have to, right? You score 49, you score 50 plus, you don't have to do it. You're doing other things. It's like, okay, that's true, 100%.
Yeah.
But you would like to hit them, and so it's something that will manifest itself. Emma Risch didn't play in the game, so she wasn't available. She's one of their best 3-point shooters. So we'll see how that comes out. And look, with basketball, similar to baseball, it can go one way and then it can shift. Like you go through ebbs and flows. But something we're going to keep track of. We're definitely going to monitor that. The rebounding situation is stellar, right? So you have 51 rebounds on the night. Becky Obinma with 12 rebounds in 12 minutes of play. You gotta love that, right? And I know that Neil Ivy, like we talked about, like, how are you going to replace Lauren Ebo, right? One of the better rebounding teams in the nation last year. How are you going to replace her? Becky Obinma comes in with 12. Sony pitches in with 9 on her end. Maddie, only 5, but at the same time 4 on the offensive rebound. Like that's a big deal. Let me ask you this question: How big is offensive rebounding emphasized by Neil? Because not a lot of coaches are of the mind of like, hey, offensive rebounds are luxuries. We want to get back and we want to be defending. How big of a point of emphasis is that for Neil?
It's huge, because when as a player, when you're out there, when the other team gets an offensive rebound, it's almost like you got up and someone just pushed you right back down. And it's kind of like, oh my God. And now you have to sit down and play another 20 seconds of defense. Is 20, 24, whatever the shot clock goes back to.
I think it's,
you probably know that.
Oh, right. It starts at 30, right?
Yeah, I think it's 20. Yeah.
Okay.
And now you have to play defense again. And now an offensive rebound, like on the other side of things, when your team gets an offensive rebound, it's a momentum swing. Like you feel like, oh, we got an offensive rebound. Okay, now we're about to score. Okay, we're going to make you play another 20 seconds of defense, and now we're about to score. And it's huge. Like rebounding is, I don't think it's emphasized enough in women's basketball, and like really how important it is to the game. We have people that can rebound offensively and defensively, but you have to use your talent properly. Like we have rebounders. So obviously you got to make that a point of emphasis. Like take like Maddie and Cass, and even Sonia had a ton of those rebounds. Great rebounder. It's just momentum swings, another opportunity, and more specifically, an opportunity for an easier bucket. Especially when you play difficult teams and really good opponents that come into the schedule. Like you have to work for points. So when you go get an offensive rebound, like, or you get a friendly bounce or something, like the opportunity to sit in your offense and make someone play defense again, like down the stretch, is huge.
Yeah. So Notre Dame did a great job in that area last night. So let's a couple other things worth pointing out here. So that we talked about the total steals at 21, 9 turnovers. No one had more than 2. So that's good, right? Like you want to have that the number be low, right? You don't want it too high, especially look, exhibition game or not, like it's your first time playing for real, right? And so the fact that it's not a sloppy performance is really nice. 19 to 25 from the free throw line, 76%. I think you'll take that most nights. Like generally you want above 80%, but I think most nights 76%. I think that's going to work out for you. You shoot 54% for the game. Obviously getting some really good looks inside, especially when you consider like you're 3 for 17 from 3, right? So your 2-point percentage is going to be up in the 60s, if not in the 70s there. Let's talk about Sony real quick. 7 of 12, 1 of 4 from 3, 7 of 8 from the free throw line. Kind of a complete floor game from her. 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks, which I think is pretty notable for her.
Yeah.
And just like watching her last night in the post game, you know, it's Niele, it's Sony, and it's Hannah sitting up there.
Mm-hmm.
Sony, it to me is so important while Liv is out because Hannah she looks young, right? Like she plays older, but she looks young. And I think, that really means nothing other than a reminder of like, she is 18 years old, you know, and it's just like, I don't know what it's like in the women's game as far as, or even the men's game. I don't know what it is in like from a basketball context for such a young player to be kind of the best player on the floor, you know, and it just feels like, man, that's a lot, you know, and maybe in the beginning it won't matter, but like we talk about the freshman wall a lot. I feel like Sony's going to be real important to kind of like, I think there's going to be times when Hannah's just kind of like tired, you know, maybe not physically, but just like mentally too, just like human nature. So I thought her floor game was exceptional. Just looking at the stat sheet, right? Like that's what you want to see from her. Maddie with a nice game in 17 minutes, in 20 minutes scoring 17 points and on 8 of 11 shooting. But what do you think about those two and just kind of the night that Sony had, just looking at the stat sheet and what it means to kind of help along Hannah here? It can't just be Hannah out there.
I think that's no surprise there from Sonia. She, like Niele references her as the Swiss Army knife sometimes, and she's so important because she does everything. Yeah. She can score, she can defend, she can rebound, she can lead, she can handle the ball. And I think, Hannah's Hannah. She's great. She's going to provide every single night. I think what you're referring to when you say freshman wall is just experience.
Yeah.
Hannah is a freshman, so obviously she doesn't have that experience. And I think the two of them together are so important because at the end of the year, during the hardest time of the year, Sonia had to play that position. And without Olivia, like, now Sonia can help her through point guard, just the ups and downs of being a point guard in the ACC. And not every night is going to be perfect. There's other great coaches, there's other great teams. They're going to find ways to make you uncomfortable, to make it difficult. I have obviously all the confidence in the world in Hannah, but that's great for Sonia because it's also going to help her. You might have to throw Sonia at the one if you run into foul trouble, at anything that might come along throughout the midst of a really long season, and having a freshman point guard. So obviously, I think the experience is what's going to help Sonia lead Hannah the most. And I think Hannah just being a point guard in general is going to take pressure and relief off of Sonia because it's not fun when you're not a point guard and you have to go be the quarterback of a team. Like, if people look at football, how important the quarterback is, it's the same thing in basketball. Your point guard is extremely important. They run the show. They call the plays. They call the shots. Right. They can control the offense. They bring so much to the game that's super important. And I think that having her there, even when she needs a break, like last year, she had to play damn near 40 minutes a game in a position that she didn't play. And now it's like, shoot, if she needs a breather, Hannah can, okay, I got you. Bring the ball up the court. Just go to the corner for this one. It's fine. Get the ball, get into their offense.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to complement each other very nice because they're also two different personalities. So Sonia is lead by example. She's neutrally balanced in everything she does, doesn't show much emotion, leads by example. And Hannah's the opposite, where she's vocal, she's talking, she's doing the other physical things. And I think that the two of them are going to come together very nicely as players and bringing their personalities to the court within the offense and the defense and that kind of thing.
Yeah. A couple of players. So Anna DeWolf, not a good shooting night, 2 of 10. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. Like, she's an older player. She knows how to score. It's just, we're just going to chalk that up as a blip.
No, she'll be great. I'm excited to see her this season.
I want to ask you about Becky Obinma.
Yeah.
It seems like a big deal because you have Kylee Watson, who started next to Maddie Westbeld.
Right.
And Kylee has experience. But you do want that extra player off the bench too, like to come in and spell either Maddie or Kylee. And so for her to come in and have, and I said it wrong. I was looking 12 rebounds. It was 12 points and 12 rebounds in 17 minutes. So that's so that's what it was. Double in 17 minutes. Like that's impressive, right? And I feel like that's a pretty big deal for this team as far as being able to kind of handle the rigors of the ACC and to be a kind of a threat, going in long into the tournament. So tell me about what you think about the way Obinma played.
Huge. She came in, rebounding's her strength. She's an athlete. She can move her feet really well. Mm-hmm. She's physical. And I mean, that's a bigger stage compared to Pepperdine. If you think about that, that's a bigger stage. And she came in and did exactly what she was supposed to do. There's a rebounding standard, obviously, and she came in and had a double-double. And I think that's really big because when you sub in at the post player spot, like you don't want to have to adjust things. If you look at last year, sometimes when we subbed with the post, depending on who it was, so take Nat, for example, Nat can hit the free throw jumper. So that post player would come out and have to guard her. And then it opens up other post-up opportunities for guards, other three-point shots for guards. And then you look at Kylee or Ebo, where that free throw jumper was not their strength. So then people would play off. And then you'd have to adjust a little bit accordingly. Not by any means negative, because they can still score in plenty of other ways. But I think that's huge. Like when you make those adjustments and subs, like, like, okay, Becky's going to come in here. She's going to bang. She's going to do her thing. She's going to get rebounds. She's going to get buckets, be physical. And that's huge, especially, she's older. She's a fifth year. You want to be reliable, no matter if you're starting or if you're coming in. And for her first night, her debut in an Irish uniform on that big stage, like I talked about, she's probably never played in an arena that big with that many people. Coming from a smaller conference. And that's just huge. That's really that's a great moment for her. She deserves to be celebrated. And I'm looking forward to seeing her challenge other post players in the ACC with her physicality and her ability to move her feet to go get the rebound, because she's not the biggest. Like she's not super tall. She's not super wide. But she's strong and she's an athlete, and super excited for her. And what she came in and did last night is awesome. Great start, great confidence booster, great for the team.
Yeah. And just to highlight the rebounding standard that you talked about, Notre Dame with 51 rebounds, Purdue Northwest with 23. So a 28 plus 28 on the boards.
Yeah.
That will get it done on the rebounding. And so sure. I think Neil Ivey will be very happy about that. Here's some overall player analytics. This is some advanced stat stuff. Hannah Hidalgo with the best game score on the team, 31.2. It's basically it's a measure of your it's a scale of 0 to 40. So it's a measure of your basically effectiveness on the court, offensively and defensively, right? So she had the best game score on the day. Sonia Citron with 26.9. So she had a very good day as well. Points produced for Hannah 26.6, which factors in assists and all those other things. Points allowed, which is key, I think, for Hannah. 4.5 points allowed. So that's basically who she's guarding, or who, the points that they're putting up in the game, and that also factors in assists. Becky Obinma with 1.2 on that, and I think that's huge, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that is the defensive piece is what I think Niele is looking for, especially from someone off the bench. Like if you're going to come off the bench and you're going to be an inside player, then be that big defender that kind of solidifies things in the middle. Like you don't want to be someone who comes in on the inside and you're a defensive liability, because then you're counting on offense that is kind of hit or miss based on how the guards are playing. And you don't want that, right? So I think that's huge for
well said. I would
Becky.
Agree.
Oh, thank you. See, look at just being in this conversation has elevated my basketball knowledge. Yes, I'm trying to learn things. So again, I think the toughest game in terms of net points came from Anna, who actually, I mean, she didn't have a terrible game by any means. It's just like when you're not putting it up offensively, you're gonna have some bad analytics there.
Yeah, and she's a fifth year, so it doesn't matter. She's gonna stay out there. She's gonna play a lot, and if she doesn't have a good shooting night, she's definitely gonna contribute in other ways, because that's just what you do when you're that age, that experience.
Yeah, and I think it shows too. Like a lot of the time, again, the difference in when you step up a level is the inside play that you don't really see at the lower level of basketball.
Yeah.
Becky Obinma, 1.2 points allowed. Kylee Watson, 1.5. Maddie Westbeld, 2.4. Right? It's just opponents don't have the like shorthanded opponents like Purdue Northwest. They just don't have the players inside to deal with. What Notre Dame has inside there. Anything else here stand out to you, or anything that we previously talked about?
I think what stands out is what we just pointed out about Anna DeWolf. So you said not the best shooting night, and Niele still left her out there for 32 minutes. That should preview leadership and trust that she has in her. It doesn't matter what the score is, That should preview that she's a leader, she's a senior, and she's going to contribute in other ways. I mean, I just feel the need to touch on that. I know some people were really excited to see her because she's new. They've heard great things about her. Sonia and Kylee hypes her up on ACC Network. That shooting night means absolutely nothing. You're going to see great parts of Anna DeWolf this year. And there was one other thing. Becky, where's is hers? 1.2. Like you said, the post play is not talked about enough. It's super undermined. And when you look at really great teams, they utilize things really well. Like you said before, like you don't want to come in and be a liability, because the first thing that one of Dawn Staley or Gina Auriemma is going to see is, okay, someone just came in the game. Like, let's pick on her immediately. It happens right away. I could tell you when we were coming down the court and I would look at opposing coaches, I'd be yelling, they're running this, they're running that, or get into help or something. And if you can come in the game and do that and defend in the post, it relieves a lot of pressure to your head coach. For sure.
Yeah. So, to your point, Anna DeWolf, she got the most minutes in the game. She played 81% of the available minutes. And look, it goes to show too, like, hey, like you're an important player for us.
For sure.
Shooting or not shooting, like you're important no matter what.
For sure.
And look, she came in with almost 300 made threes, or I think it was 248 made threes in her career. Like she's gonna be able to put the ball in the hoop.
Yeah.
She can make buckets. Offensive, some more analytics offensively. Hannah Hidalgo with an effective shooting percentage of 100, which basically factors in the fact that made threes are a higher percent. Like they have added value basically. So that's where you can get an effective shooting percentage of 100. You shoot 8 for 9. That's gonna work out very nicely.
Yeah.
An offensive rating of 227.2, which is 100% not sustainable, but it's still nice to see, right? And you're gonna see some really lopsided offensive ratings here because of the opponent and how easily Notre Dame was able to score in the game. Some decent pace stats, I thought. 75 possessions for Notre Dame on the night, which is about 4 possessions more than they had, their pace last year.
Yeah.
But I think that in a game that is as lopsided as it was, you're not going to be pushing the ball, certainly not late in the fourth quarter and not late in the second quarter. They had, I believe, 60 possessions through 3 quarters. And so that's, obviously you're sitting there at an 80 possession pace there. And then you slow the game down in the fourth. Obviously you're up by a ton. It's also helped when you're getting steals, you're pushing the ball usually in that type of situation, which is, what you want to do. Let's see. Anything else on this sheet that stood out to you in terms of, any of the advanced stats here?
No, I think we covered for an exhibition game with that score. Yeah. I think we covered the important parts. I wouldn't go deep into these stats and start like really analyzing. I think maybe in a couple games or down the stretch, we'll get into some of those stats.
Sounds good. All right, defensively, this is where it's fairly interesting to me. Stop percentage for Becky Obinma is at 155.3. So basically, like, you're just getting stops when you're on the court, and they're coming at you like at an enormous clip, right? So like it stands out, right? Like Becky Obinma and Hannah Hidalgo like had the best stop percentages on the team. That's very good. Defensive rating, the 2 best on the team are Hannah at 47.8 and Becky Obinma at 18. So look, that's like, we're shutting you down completely. You're not getting anything against us.
100%.
So that's important to see.
Yeah, that's it's big, especially for newcomers.
Right, exactly. New to the team. So it's good stuff from Notre Dame overall, and really excited to see. Offensive rebound rate for Becky Obinma is sitting there at 28.4. Maddie at 19.3, which is like, again, like that's it highlights the difference in size, in the ability from inside players going down to a lower level, but also, you want to, like, it's like you said, like, you want it needs to be that way, and you want it to be that way, right? Like you have an advantage there, and you want those players. They are, Becky's an experienced player, not at Notre Dame, but experienced. Maddie's obviously played a ton of basketball for Notre Dame, so you want them to maximize that, and you want them to, stand out in that area, and they did. Anything else from this that you want to go into before we get on to the game in Paris?
Let's get on to Paris.
Everyone's very excited.
I know. Let's do it. Let's talk Paris.
I mean, are you upset? Are you upset that this is a year after you have exhausted your eligibility?
Hell yeah.
You could be going to Paris.
I hope. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm a little upset just because it's like, oh, dang. Would love to play South Carolina in Paris. But at the same time, I'm excited for them. I will highly enjoy watching the game from my couch.
Yeah.
Yes. After I rehab and work out, I will be there with the candles in the cold weather, definitely on the couch.
Yes.
I have just been hearing about all the fans that are getting ready to travel, all the travel packages bought for this game, and I would imagine we are going to have a lot of fans over there, just because of Notre Dame and all the connections over there in Paris. So that is so excited. I know they are so excited because there's other things. They're not just going there to play a game. They're making history. South Carolina is also making history. I know they have dinners. They have some events. And that is just forget the game. That is such a cool opportunity, especially with the evolution of women's sports. So cool. So cool for everybody else, the broadcasters, the coaches. I mean, it's a very special moment, and to get hype and play a team like South Carolina over there is like, that's a dream to open up the season. Super excited about all of that non-basketball stuff, but this matchup is huge. So let's talk about that.
Let's talk about the matchup. I like Notre Dame, the football team played in Ireland. I had no desire to do that, but it would be awesome. I don't like going. I don't like doing that for Notre Dame. I would rather not, or a football game. Like, I'd rather stay home. But like this Paris trip, like this is one of those FOMO things. Like this would legitimately awesome to go. And if you're in the traveling party, you want to make sure you have all the things you need. And if you know, Paris known for fashion. Oh, yeah. And if you're going and you need we're going out to nice restaurants. I need a dress shirt. I need something to wear to restaurants that's versatile and comfortable. And if you haven't done so, then head over to esqclothing.com and they have created the world's first bamboo dress shirt, crafted from high quality bamboo fabric. It's the softest and most comfortable shirt you'll ever put on. Not only more sustainable than cotton, but also feels cooler, has stretch, is odor and wrinkle resistant, and it's even machine washable. You've seen ESQ's one-piece collar bamboo dress shirt on all of Notre Dame's top players and coaches. It's the perfect shirt for today's business meeting or heading for a night out. Use ISD15, get 15% off all online items. ISD15 for 15% off. ESQ, it's good stuff there.
ESQ, get on your ESQ.
Papa Mabrey, hook them up. Papa Mabrey. ISD15. All right, Darren. Number 10 Notre Dame gets number 6 South Carolina. Where are you at with this? Right, I assume you're thinking about it a lot. How it can go. It's weird. So basketball again it's like a free flowing game. Right. So I feel like there's so many factors that can go one way or another that it's kind of hard to predict a game like this where you haven't really seen either team. Both teams are going to be good. Could it just simply come down to what team, people always say make or miss basketball, make or miss league kind of thing, right? Like, could it just simply come down to that factor? Just like one team shoots better than the other team, and that's how it comes out.
Yeah, but I think that there's more that factors into it, because if you take every single game and every loss, way more goes into it than just calling it an off shooting night, because there's always something else that you can do. So I know last year when we lost to Maryland, we didn't have a great 3-point shooting night. I think I was 1 for 6 from 3. Maybe even in the first half, I think it was 1 for 6. That was lightly mentioned, because there were so many other things that like we could do as
lightly mentioned within the locker room.
Yeah, like lightly mentioned after the game when we lost, because although like no one said, "Oh, we had a poor shooting night and that's why we lost." Like there's a ton of other things that could happen. But I'll tell you what, in a game like this, if you don't show up, you lose. You got to show up. You know what I mean? And showing up doesn't mean making shots. Showing up means knowing the scouts, knowing personnel. Not like when you play a team like South Carolina, you can't run at everybody like they're Steph Curry, because they have different weapons. Shooting was not their strength last year. Yes, they replaced with some 3-point shooters. They can shoot the ball better this year. But you got to show up. You got to do the little things. And you can't have mental lapses in a game like this, because against really high caliber teams, mental lapses are points. They are just easy buckets, transition points. So I would say you just got to show up. Both teams have to show up. The players have to show up. Coaches have to show up. And that's more of a mental thing, I would say, because if the mental part is there and you show up mentally, you're bound to perform.
So like closing out to the right shoulder. closing out, going on top of screens versus under screens versus a certain type of player, closing out hard against one player and then not doing so against another player. How they like to run their offensive sets, like whether you're switching and where and when to switch and that sort of thing. So like that's the mental game that goes on with basketball.
Yeah.
And I feel like the best offenses make the defense, and this goes to continuity, right? And then it also goes to coaching, right? And it's very difficult, like why it's difficult to play a team like Dawn Staley, because every play has a counter off of an action, right? Yeah. And so you have to be into your scouting report, right? You have to know, okay, they ran this set, they ran this screen motion, right? Okay, I need to be on top of this. Well, now I need to be under this. Oh, they're coming back here. Now I need to be on top of that. Or this is when we switch. And then now I've switched. Okay, now what does this player do? How am I going to attack her? Which way do I want her to go? Do I want her to go left? Do I need to force baseline? Where's my help? Like all this stuff happens in 30 seconds, right? And so you need to be on all of that. So I think that's what you're talking about. It's like 100%. showing up mentally and ready to go and scouting.
Yeah. And understand there's going to be mistakes. Every possession.
It's the opener, right? Yeah. I mean, it's for all intents and purposes, it's the opener. How hard is it to open with an opponent like this?
I've never done it. It's going to be really difficult for both teams.
Yeah.
We do have some really good practice players, though. I must say, shout out to our practice players because they are really good, intense, and physical. So they definitely have prepared them well, but it's not a game. You know what I mean? So
do you want to go into that for a second?
What? Practice players?
The practice players. Because
let's
do that. Well, because I that's a part of the program that I don't think a lot of people know about.
No. And I don't think a lot of people across the country can say that they have great practice players.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have practice players that are good. They make practice extremely difficult at times. They are physical. They are fast and athletic. They pick you up full court. And I mean, you credit Nielle to that too, because that's how she wants us to practice how we're going to play. So our practices are extremely intentional. There's practice players there every day. We take care of them well. We definitely give them what they deserve in return. And I mean, there's been great ones. There was one a couple years ago that, I mean, no one could defend. But it's great because when you are going up against someone that is better than your opponents, just from like a skill standpoint, obviously, their names are Ben or CJ. Their skills might not be where a whole South Carolina offense is. Like it's two completely different things, but it teaches you the right mechanisms to be in the right positions on defense if you're going up against someone that is faster, stronger, and more athletic or can move better than people you're going to play against. So I would say they were a huge part, I mean, not only of our program, but of my career too. Like in my personal workouts and my individual ones I had with my coaches, there was a practice player there guarding me. And it wasn't always offense. Like some of my workouts would be me defending a ball screen against our practice player with no one else on the court. And it made me so much better. Like you have to give them all the credit in the world. They do it voluntarily. They do everything else that we do. They're full-time students. They work and they show up to practice every single day to make us better. Like they have fun in the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Essentially, like they're there for us. Like, and you can't thank them enough.
So these are men.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
My sister's going to get me on this one because sometimes she has to play in practice. So shout out to you, Coach Mike. You're the greatest scout team player out there.
No, but it goes into it, right? I mean, yeah, like it goes into that. I mean, look, I think that's an aspect that not a lot of people know about. So I think that's Amazing. Good insight into that. I mean, yeah, like that would go to show like the prep that goes into something like this and getting the girls ready to go for a top opponent like this. Where are the nerves with because it's such a long season, you know what I mean? Like it is, and the ACC is such a big like goal to, and it's a hard it's a hard, like the ACC is really good, right? So it's a very tough conference, and that's going to take in a lot. Like, is there the amount of pressure on a game like this to where it's like, hey, like, is it easier for the girls to say like, hey, this is just an amazing opportunity, like let's go out there and show out, and whatever happens happens, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, obviously you want to win. You want to win every single time. Every single practice you want to win. But this doesn't have I don't want to speak. I'm asking you a question. Does it have, well, no, because I was starting to
I know. Yeah.
So I don't want to do that. Does it have the type of game pressure that you would have if the game was like an elimination type game? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just it's just like, man, like let's just go show out. We're in Paris. It's a great opponent. Like let's just go get it. Because there's a term like a free roll, basically. Like no one's gonna bang you if you lose to South Carolina and Paris by like 4 points or whatever. Like no one's gonna freak out about that. You know what I mean? And nationally, the locker room will obviously care. But do you see what I'm getting at with that?
Yeah, totally understand. To hit on the first point I was going to say is, yes, it is another game. And I think as a leader, even when we would play March Madness and stuff, like you never are supposed to like bring pressure upon your team because everyone already knows what's at stake. And you don't want to be the reminder of that. So like when we would play in really high intensity games that hold a lot of weight, because even though this is just the first game of the year and it's in Paris, a win like that holds a lot of weight down the line when it comes to seeding and regions in the NCAA tournament. So a win like that does hold a lot of weight. I don't think the players necessarily would be thinking of that right now. I know the coaches definitely are. But they know how important it is, a win like this. But I don't think that's ever mentioned like throughout the team and things that are said and through preparation and leadership. You know, no one's going to get up there and say like, this win holds so much weight and we have to win because this, and that. What really needs to be said is, this is a great opportunity. Let's go out there and let's have fun and play hard. Because as a player, like I can speak on experience, when you truly embrace having fun and playing hard, you're going to win 9 times out of 10 when you let go of all the other stuff. So I think they understand the opportunity it is and the weight of what a win like this would do on both ends for Notre Dame and South Carolina. But I don't think it's talked about or expressed as it shouldn't be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just what an awesome scene it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, like that's great. Yeah. It's just going to be really it's really good.
Yeah.
What do you well, I guess, okay. Do you want to get into? Do you want to make a prediction? Like, what do you think about this game? Like, what like you think? Like, okay, if Notre Dame does X, they will win. What is it?
If Notre Dame rebounds the ball and gets back on defense, they will win the game.
Okay.
They will win the game 73-67.
Oh, we got score predictions. Let's go.
I threw my prediction out there. I did have my prediction early on. I think South Carolina is a really good defensive and rebounding team, so I don't think that the score is going to be very high. But I think that in order to win the game, Notre Dame, you better box out like your bleeping life depends on it when you play South Carolina. And you need to get your behind back on defense because they're pushing pace. They're going to use their athleticism to their advantage. And you need to know personnel. You need to know when to run out a shooter and when not to. Those are my thoughts on the game.
Let's go. 73-67.
That. You better box out like your life depends on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Box out like your life depends on it. That'll be the header of this this show. So the game is Monday at 1 Eastern time, 10 Pacific. Do you know the channel? Do you know the channel? I haven't looked it up.
Right?
Is it on ESPN? I don't know. I assumed ESPN, but I didn't want to like say.
Let's
It
go.
could be Fox or something.
I got you covered right here.
She's got me covered. This is great. This is great.
Yes, I was right.
Great radio.
Yeah.
ESPN, 1 Eastern time. There it is. 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. We're gonna be watching. We're gonna be going.
From our couch.
From our couch. Drinking coffee.
In our ESQ shirts.
In our ESQ shirts. We are going to watch. So that after the game, we are going to do a live reaction show. Yeah. Me and Dara. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully talking about a Notre Dame victory. But whatever it is, we finally get to have eyes on them and see how it goes. And it's going to be very exciting. So you're going to want to tune in to our live show, our Dines with Dara on the Joy Slot podcast. It's going to be great. Or probably around 3 Eastern time. Usually these games take about 2 hours. So 3 Eastern time, noon Pacific time, which is perfect. It's my lunch. So it's going to be great. So check us out there. Check out this show on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. Leave us a comment. Let us know how you're feeling about this show. We'll be back. We'll be back on Monday. So everybody, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you on Monday, and have a good weekend.